In the final part of Chapter 4, we'll take a look at developing the ER diagram for our entire database. As we do that, we need to know the process involved in working on our design. And if we were to go back and review that process, we want to make sure that we included the following things. First of all, we'd want a description of the operation that our company does. What are we in the business of doing? Next, we'd want to supplement that information with our business rules. How does a company actually conduct its business? How are decisions made? Next, we want to develop from these two sources of information, we want to first develop our main entities. And these are the main entities that we see operating within our database. Now, there will be smaller ones that you'll need to develop as you go through the process. But the first thing we want to do is identify the primary entities that we're going to be interested in. In a sales database, that might include an entity for salesmen and an entity for customers. And once we've identified those entities, then we want to identify the entity relationships. And at this point, we're halfway there. After that, we want to create the initial ERDs. And notice I said initial because these can change. Don't get into the trap of thinking that once you have created an ERD that it can never be changed. It'll be modified by the knowledge that you gain through development and continual discussion and interview with the end users and the stakeholders involved in your database project. Once we have an ERD in hand or feel very comfortable with it, next we need to define the attributes of each of our entities. And if we're going to define attributes, then after that we might as well take on the primary keys. And finally, and we need to continually keep this process in mind, revise and review. And if we can accomplish this for our database, we're on the road to developing a very useful and a very good product for taking data that we collect and turn it into information that our company can use to make informed and valid business decisions. Now, as we look at developing this ER diagram for our overall database, there are three relationships that we want to look at. Unary relationships, please don't get this wrong, like one of my classes did in front of a customer and refer to it as a urinary chart. It's an unary relationship. That's where a table relates to itself. A binary relationship, we have two tables that relate to each other, and we've been pretty much working with a binary relationship up to this point in the semester. And finally, we can have a ternary relationship where we're talking about three or more entities that are relating to each other, and you can see those depicted here on the screen. Here are examples of binary relationships. A ternary relationship, going a step further. And then this is an implementation ready ER diagram for the tiny college that our textbook uses as an example and a developmental database. You can see we have our relationships defined. We have our cardinalities defined. And our primary keys. This is a point that you should be at with the database you're developing for your community client within the next week. If you have any questions, please send me an email. See you in class Tuesday night.